You feel good when you eat food and drink lots of water. Your succulents are the same way. We're really used to giving them water, but we don't always think about giving them food or fertilizer. In this video, I'm going to show you how and when to fertilize your succulents and what to use. Why would you want to fertilize your succulents? A big reason is that it helps them grow faster. Your succulents are getting nutrients from the soil that they're in, but that can only do so much. Giving your succulents fertilizer will help them to get bigger, sometimes develop more color, and overall just look better. Let's talk about when you should fertilize your succulents. If you're growing succulents indoors, I recommend only fertilizing once a year. Succulents indoors need a lot more light to stay compact and look their beautiful normal shape. But when you fertilize, your succulents are going to grow faster. If they don't get enough sunlight, they're going to start to stretch out more. So I recommend fertilizing indoor succulents about once a year and taking them outside for a little while where they can get more sunlight right after you've fertilized. Make sure that you're gradually introducing them to more sunlight so that they're not getting burned, but you'll notice they start to do a lot better after they get that little bit of food. With outdoor succulents, you can fertilize more often. The best times of year to fertilize are in the spring or in the fall, just before your succulents go into their active growing season. It's likely that you have a mix of winter growers and summer growers in your garden, so I recommend fertilizing once in the spring and once in the fall, both times when succulents are getting ready to go into their active growing season. You can fertilize your succulents more often. It really just depends on how much you want them to grow, what type of fertilizer you're using, and what type of succulents you're growing. Just make sure that your succulents are getting plenty of sunlight and plenty of water after you fertilize them. This will allow them to maintain their compact shape, their beautiful colors, and have plenty of water to grow and fill their leaves. I frequently get asked if you can fertilize leaf propagation and seed propagation. The answer is definitely yes. So let's move into what types of fertilizer to use so you know how to get started. There are 3 types of succulent fertilizers that I recommend using. You'll use a different one depending on what you're growing or what your goal is. So first off, we have Quick Start. Quick Start is really good for seed propagation, and you can also use it for transplanting succulents. Next up, we have the Miracle-Gro Succulent Plant Food. This is a really good all-around fertilizer for succulents. The third type of fertilizer that I recommend is actually one that I use the most, and that is this manure tea fertilizer. It's an all-natural fertilizer that comes from manure, but it's really good for seeds, for general arrangements, for planting in the ground. You can use it just about anywhere. It's not very potent, so you can use it frequently and your succulents will really benefit from all of the extra food. There are other types of fertilizers out there that will work for succulents. These 3 are my go-to, and they're ones that I'm familiar with and I know work really well. If you use another type of fertilizer, make sure that it's diluted. You also want an even balance of nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. So those are the little numbers that you'll see on each fertilizer container. Now let's talk about how to use each of these fertilizers. As I mentioned, Quick Start is a really great option for seeds. Just follow the directions on there and you'll be good to go. But as a little overview, you'll just dilute it the amount that it recommends and then pour this onto freshly planted succulent seeds. You'll do it the same day that you plant them, and then you'll also apply it again 7 days later. If you're using Quick Start, you'll notice a really speedy growth to your seeds, whereas you might be waiting a little bit longer otherwise. The succulent plant food is already diluted. You just put 1 squirt on a small pot, something that's 6 inches or smaller, or 2 squirts on a bigger pot. Squirt it directly on the soil, and then make sure you water afterward to help the fertilizer spread throughout the whole arrangement. This is a really good option for indoor succulents and smaller pots, since you don't have to apply very much and you don't have to mix it up or dilute it ahead of time. Now let's talk about how to mix up the manure tea fertilizer. It's my personal favorite fertilizer for succulents, and it's the one that I've seen the best results with. To mix up the manure tea fertilizer, you can make as much or as little as you want at a time, but 1 tea bag will make about 5 gallons. To start, just take one of your tea bags and place it in a bucket of water. You're gonna let it sit in the water anywhere from 6 to 24 hours, depending on how much you're making. If you're doing a full 5-gallon bucket, I would leave it in for 24 hours. If you're doing a smaller amount, say a gallon, you can leave it in for about 6 hours. Once your tea has finished steeping, then you'll just pull the tea bag out. And if you're making a small batch, just hang this up somewhere to dry. You can have it dripping over your succulents and they'll benefit from all the extra nutrients. Then you're gonna take the tea and you're gonna pour it into a watering can. And then you're just gonna pour it on your succulents just like you would any other watering. Make sure that you water thoroughly so that your succulents are getting all the water that they need. So be sure to check out our watering video on how to water properly. The manure tea doesn't store after it's been steeped, so you want to make sure that you're using it pretty quickly after you take the tea bag out in order for it to be most effective. That's why you can also mix it up in the smaller batches and then just hang the tea bag out to dry in between. The great thing about the manure tea is it's gentle enough that you can use it every 2 weeks if you want. You can also use it on leaf propagation and seed propagation. It can really be used anywhere you're growing succulents, and you're sure to see really great results with it. The manure tea fertilizer is really my favorite way to fertilize succulents. It's easy to use and it makes your succulents look awesome. The succulent plant food and the quick start are also really good options as well, so definitely give those a try. If you found a succulent fertilizer that works for you, leave a comment in the description below and let me know what it is, or tell me what your experience is with any of these types of fertilizer. If you liked this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and hit subscribe. Share it with any succulent loving friends, and I'll see you next time.